The United Nations has congratulated this year's recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize, Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corna Machado. The prize committee said in a statement that Machado would receive the prize for her efforts to advance democracy in Venezuela in the broader context of democracy being in retreat globally. She was blocked from running in last year's widely disputed election, which the opposition claimed it won with a UN panel of experts determined that the poll lacked basic transparency and integrity. The government of President Nicolas Maduro has ignored international criticism of the poll and tightened its grip on power. This was the response Machado's selection from the UN Secretary-General and the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights.
The Secretary-General congratulates Maria Corna Machado on being awarded the 2025 Nobel Peace Prize. He notes that for decades, Ms. Machado has been a champion of democracy and a voice of unity in her country of Venezuela. The Secretary-General says that in its statement, the Nobel Committee reminded us that the tools for democracy are the tools for peace. He says that at a time when democracy and the rule of law are under threat globally, today's prize is a tribute to all those working to safeguard civil and political rights around the world, and a stirring reminder of the resilience and the power of the democratic spirit.
We congratulate Maria Corna Machado on being announced as the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize. This recognition reflects the clear aspirations of the people of Venezuela for free and fair elections, for civil and political rights, and for the rule of law. The High Commissioner has consistently spoken out in support of these values. We reiterate this willingness of our office to engage in good faith with the government of Venezuela and all the stakeholders based on mutual respect. And we remain firmly committed to continue working to defend and protect the human rights of all Venezuelans, whether they are in Venezuela or abroad, and based, of course, on information and with the victims in the center of our work.
And for more on this, we are now joined by our United States correspondent, Sharon Bryce-Peace, and he joins us now from New York. And Sharon, I mean, there was a lot of anticipation when it comes to the announcement of who will win the Peace Prize. And the other headline in relation to the Peace Prize is not just who won it, but who did not. Has there been any reaction shown when it comes to U.S. President Donald Trump, who literally campaigned quite significantly for this prize?
You're quite right, Mbali. I can't remember a time when a prize like this is announced and we talk in the same vein as who won the award. We also talk about who didn't quite make it over the finish line, only because it was the president himself of the United States that essentially publicly campaigned for this. It was a constant refrain whenever he gave a speech and talked about how he was ending wars in different theaters around the world and how he probably wouldn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, but it was certainly evidenced by what he was saying that this was a deep-seated desire of the president. We have yet to hear from Donald Trump, which in itself is strange, right? Obviously, perhaps some disappointment there, but he is due in Bali to speak to the media at around 3 p.m. local time, 9 p.m. South African time. So within a few moments, we might get his first on-camera reaction. But I tell you, the White House Communications Director, Stephen Schweng, did respond, and this is what he said on X earlier today. President Trump will continue making peace deals, ending wars and saving lives. I think we have the tweet, if we can put it on screen. He has the heart of a humanitarian, and there will never be anyone like him who can move mountains with the sheer force of his will. The Nobel Committee proved they placed politics over peace. So some criticism from the White House there, and some criticism also from various supporters of the president that has been pushing the committee to give this award to the president of the United States. But it was also a question put to the Nobel Peace Prize committee chair, Jürgen Wattner-Fregness. This is how he responded. Watch.
When authoritarians seize power, it is crucial to recognize courageous defenders of freedom who rise and resist. Democracy depends on people who refuse to stay silent, who dare to step forward, despite grave risk, and who remind us that freedom must never be taken for granted. In the long history of the Nobel Peace Prize, I think this committee has seen any type of campaign, media attention. We receive thousands and thousands of letters every year of people wanting to say what for them leads to peace. This committee sits in a room filled with the portraits of all laureates, and that room is filled with both courage and integrity. So we base only our decision on the work and the will of Alfred Nobel.
So important, Ria, to understand the context in Bali of the Nobel Peace Prize, right? And given the push here from elements within the White House, the president himself about being a worthy recipient, of the award based on ending wars, it's important to understand that the prize doesn't only go to those who've ended wars. Let's take some of the Nobel Peace laureates in South Africa, for example. 1960, Chief Albert Luthuli won the award for his non-violent struggle against apartheid. In 1984, the Emeritus Archbishop of the Anglican Church, Desmond Tutu, for his non-violent and fearless stance against the South African apartheid laws, making him a unifying symbol in that context. Or in 1993, F.W. de Klerk and Nelson Mandela for their work for the peaceful termination of the apartheid regime and for laying the foundations of a new democratic South Africa. So that really does give us a broad spectrum of what this prize represents and who some of the recipients have been in the past.
Certainly, Sherwin. And Machado has also since put out a lengthy statement expressing her profound gratitude for the award. What more did she say?
Well, the Nobel Committee also put out a video of the person that made the call to Machado to inform her of this, and she just expressed wow and shock and a lack of words, as one expects in moments like this. She also then later put out a statement. You know, they refer to her as the Lady of Steel or the Iron Lady, a sort of throwback to the time of Margaret Thatcher in the United Kingdom, and she expressed gratitude to the Nobel Committee on behalf of all the people of Venezuela. She said the machinery of oppression has been brutal and systemic in Venezuela. She marked by detentions, torture, forced disappearances, and extrajudicial killings, which she referred to as state terrorism. To every Venezuelan, she said, this award is yours. It is a recognition of what we have achieved and a reminder of what still remains. She then subsequently also posted on X, and perhaps a nod to President Donald Trump here. She said, we are on the threshold of victory, and today more than ever we count on President Trump, the people of the United States, and democratic nations of the world as our main allies to achieve freedom and democracy. And just to give you some context here, we have reported on this.
All right.
The outcome of July's presidential election last year, and the panel of experts report that was very critical about the outcome of that election and the lack of transparency. And so this all speaks to her receiving this award today.
All right. Thank you so much, Sherwin.